hard to lose belly fat, or maybe as you've gotten older, your weight hasn't changed much, but your fat seems to have shifted to your midsection, and no matter what you've tried, it doesn't seem to budge. Here's the thing. This kind of belly fat isn't just regular fat. It's a specific type called visceral fat, and it's often triggered by two key hormones, cortisol and insulin. When most people hear cortisol, they just think of stress. But when it stays elevated for too long, it actually changes how your body stores fat. And that's why so many people, as they age, and women especially, suddenly find themselves with a belly that they never had before. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about what cortisol belly actually is, what causes it, and what you can do to get rid of it. Because spoiler alert, it's not just about restricting calories. And we're also going to talk about how it's related to insulin resistance and fatty liver. Because generally, if you have one of these conditions, you either have all three or you're on track to develop them. But the solution for all is pretty similar. That's the good news. Hi, I'm Kait, a nutritionist who specializes in insulin resistance and hormone balance. If you've been struggling with stubborn belly fat and nothing seems to work, the answer might be in this video. So stick around because we're going to break it all down. Cortisol belly isn't just a catchy name. It's a real pattern of fat storage that shows up mostly in the midsection. This type of fat tends to be firm, not soft, and it sits deeper inside the body, around your organs. That's what we call visceral fat, and it's completely different from the type of fat we store elsewhere on our body, which is subcutaneous. And visceral fat is actually a lot more dangerous than subcutaneous fat is. Subcutaneous fat is just stored energy, whereas visceral fat is inflammatory. It's linked to higher levels of inflammation, insulin resistance, heart disease, and even fatty liver. And one of the main drivers of it is chronic high cortisol. Now, I'm sure you've heard of cortisol before because it's our body's stress hormone. Its role is to help deal with danger or pressure. But when it's constantly elevated, like it often is in our modern lives, it starts doing more harm than good. Here's how it works. When your brain thinks you're under threat, whether that's from actual stress, poor sleep, blood sugar crashes, over-exercising, or skipping meals, it tells your adrenal glands to release cortisol. Cortisol raises your blood sugar and tells your body to store fat specifically around the middle, because it sees that as the most efficient place to keep emergency fuel. Your body is basically preparing for crisis because it can't tell the difference between a tiger chasing you or a meeting with your boss. And short bursts of stress and cortisol aren't a bad thing, but when that stress doesn't stop, because let's get real, most of us are dealing with non-stop stress, your cortisol never comes back down and your belly fat starts to build up. And that's why so many people, and women especially, start to notice a shift as they age, especially after 40 and 50. Even if you're not gaining weight overall, your fat distribution can change. And what's even more frustrating is that traditional advice like cutting calories or exercising more doesn't actually help. It can make the problem worse because those things raise cortisol too. So you're stuck in this cycle where everything you do seems to backfire. But the good news is that once you start to understand why your body is holding on to and storing fat in this area, you can start to make the necessary changes. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the rest of this video. Now, cortisol belly isn't just about your looks. Like I said, this type of fat is inflammatory. Visceral fat wraps around your internal organs. It's metabolically active, which means it's constantly pumping out inflammatory chemicals. This low-grade inflammation puts your body under constant pressure and has been linked to everything from insulin resistance and high blood pressure to heart disease and even cognitive decline. Unlike the fat under your skin, visceral fat impacts how your organs function. It can interfere with your liver, your pancreas, even your gut. And because it's so deep in the body, you can't always measure it just by looking in the mirror. This is why some people can be a normal weight on the scale, but still have dangerous levels of visceral fat. The risks are real and they often go undetected until something more serious shows up through lab work or imaging. So this isn't about aesthetics, or it's not just about aesthetics, I should say. It's about your health and your health long term. Reducing cortisol belly means reducing your risk of future metabolic and cardiovascular problems too. So let's connect the dots between cortisol and insulin resistance because the two are closely linked. When cortisol rises, so does your blood sugar. This is your body's way of giving you quick energy to deal with stress. But if cortisol is constantly elevated, your blood sugar stays high too. Over time, your cells stop responding properly to insulin, which is the hormone that helps move sugar out of your bloodstream and into your cells. And that's insulin resistance. When insulin is high and your cells aren't responding to it, your body stores more fat. And more fat as visceral fat. And this is why so many people with cortisol belly also struggle with prediabetes, women struggle with PCOS, or unexplained weight gain, despite eating relatively well. And here's the catch. Insulin resistance can further increase cortisol, which creates a vicious cycle. The more your blood sugar swings, the more stress your body feels, and the harder it becomes to lose belly fat. And this is why blood sugar management is a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to fixing hormonal weight gain. You have to address both insulin and cortisol in order to get results. So how do you know if what you're dealing with is actually cortisol belly? Here are a few key signs to look out for. The most obvious is if your belly fat feels firm or hard. However, you can have visceral fat or cortisol belly underneath subcutaneous fat, so this isn't always the case. If your belly fat is squishy, you're not off the hook. If your arms and your legs stay relatively lean. Another sign is if you crave sugar or carbs when you're stressed. And another one is if you feel wired but tired most of the time. Now, this checklist isn't for diagnosis, but if a lot of these sound familiar, cortisol is likely playing a big role in your belly fat, and it's something to look into further. So let's get into the good stuff. How can you actually target and lose cortisol belly? These are the core strategies I recommend to my clients and that I have seen work time and time again. Number one, I know you're gonna roll your eyes, but it's to prioritize sleep. Sleep is one of the most powerful tools for lowering cortisol. Poor sleep keeps cortisol elevated the next day, which leads to more belly fat, more cravings, and more insulin resistance. Start with the basics. Keep your room cool and dark, no screens an hour and a half before bed, supplement magnesium L-threonine, and keep your bedtime and wake time consistent, even on the weekends. Sleep isn't a luxury. If you're trying to lose hormonal belly fat, it's a non-negotiable. Number two is to stop overtraining. Too much cardio can increase your cortisol and keep it elevated for hours. Now, every time you exercise, there is going to be some increase in your cortisol levels, no matter the type of exercise you're doing. And that's not a bad thing. Short doses are necessary for helping your body to become stronger, to become faster, to improve. But the key is short doses. If you're on the treadmill, if you're running, if you're riding a bike, and you are staying above that zone 2 heart rate zone, this is chronic cardio. And that can make cortisol belly worse. So stick to low intensity cardio if you are gonna do it. Stay in zone 2 and lower. That's where most of the benefits are anyways. Or try something like resistance training or Pilates instead. Number 3 is to eat protein-rich meals. Focus your meals around protein, at least 30 grams every single time. From there, add healthy fats and then fruits and vegetables. Think eggs and avocado, steak and greens, or Greek yogurt with chia seeds. These are all great options. Number 4 is to be smart about fasting. Yes, fasting is a very beneficial tool for improving your metabolic health, but like exercise, the benefits come from small doses. A 72-hour fast only needs to be done every couple of months in order to get the most bang for your buck. Daily intermittent fasting, the sweet spot is between 12 and 18 hours. Men can get away with fasting for longer than women can. And if you're doing a daily intermittent fast and it feels like a struggle, if you're pushing through it and it's really hard every single day, you're fasting too much and your cortisol is likely staying elevated for longer than it should. So pull back. The key with fasting is consistency. It shouldn't feel like a struggle. You should be able to work it into your routine and feel good doing it. Now, if you want to get real data on where your hormone levels and your insulin levels stand, I highly recommend So Health's Weight Biology Kit. So Health makes tracking your metabolic health easy with their at-home weight biology kit. It checks your fasting insulin, your thyroid, inflammation markers, and all from the comfort of your own home. You'll get physician-reviewed results and actual insights into your metabolism and hormone function. It's available in the United States. You can check it out by heading to healthcoachkait.com/getsowell. And you can use code KAIT10 at checkout to save 10% off your order. I think this is a great way to measure improvements in your metabolic health, especially by looking at your fasting insulin. Standard blood panels don't test fasting insulin, and that is a huge piece of the puzzle. Looking at insulin, you can catch insulin resistance before it progresses to prediabetes, before you see a big rise in your blood sugar. So if you want to know more about your metabolic health and start taking control of it, I highly recommend checking out this kit. So in summary, cortisol belly isn't about laziness or weakness. It's your body trying to protect you. But once you lower cortisol, improve insulin sensitivity, and reduce inflammation, your body starts to let go of that stored fat because it finally feels safe. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments which tip resonated with you the most. Is there one you're going to start implementing today? Let me know down below. And if you did enjoy this video, you might also enjoy my video on signs that your liver is struggling. Because like I said, it often ties in with cortisol belly. So I'll link that video on the screen now. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.